I'm Edward Warfield, the publisher of City Biz, and I'm honored today to interview Anh Hatzopoulos, who is the co-founder and CEO of Dama Financial. Welcome.
Thank you, Edwin. So happy to be here.
Your career includes stints at Netscape, NetSpend, and Walmart. Can you provide some highlights of your career and the decision to launch Dama Financial?
I can, I've been lucky enough to have had some of the opportunities that I've had to, see some of some key things in the internet, be pioneered as well as financial services in this country. From each of those experiences, whether it be the first browser company to the largest retailer in the country and, in some measures in the world, to really pioneering financial services for the underserved and underbanked in this country. Drawing from each of those experiences has really led us here because really the founders of Dama Financial were one people that I met along the way and worked with very closely. And, from a mission perspective, we felt like we were all very aligned to really do some good from a public safety perspective. But, in order to really make a dent in something so big and impactful as cannabis, there are a lot of experiences that we've had to draw on from our backgrounds. So we felt like the stars aligned to get here.
So the other co-founders were Dan Henry and George Gresham. Tell us about their backgrounds.
Sure. What I will say is we met 14 years ago to work on NetSpend, which was a company that was coming out of a failed acquisition. And it was really a turnaround situation. But there were some things around what Dama had that were incredibly impactful and compelling that we felt like could be harnessed to help in the greater good from helping the underbanked and unbanked. But what's common for all of our backgrounds that really helps help solidify the working relationship and the mission that we were on was we all have worked with economies that were trapped in cash and deserved more security, more safety, and more access for the customers that we were serving. So each of our backgrounds, whether it be Dan starting a company that helped in Eastern Europe, to George Gresham, who really made an impact in the gaming and gambling industry. And then my background with Walmart.com, really serving a very underserved market in this country, really helping people get untrapped from a cash perspective, and very similar, but to a different market for Dama, which is the business world from a cannabis perspective.
And so what problem are you solving?
I would say on a macro level, the problem was public safety and access to tools that most businesses take for granted, that these are foundational tools that you would rely on to make sure your money is safe, that shrinkage is minimized. But for employees who were tasked with picking up cash and moving products around in a way that was unsafe. But that was foundationally where we started. But we knew when we started Dama that what we were starting with, which is banking in the industry, wasn't going to be where we finished. So all of the investments we've made were really much more tailored around the macro picture of helping this industry evolve and have the tools that they deserve, like any other industry.
And so looks like there are multiple layers of pain points. The pain points for the banks, there were pain points for the cannabis retailers, and the pain points for the distributors. Tell us of how you came together with a solution to address all these pain points.
That's exactly right, Edwin. We sit in between the businesses and the banks. And, with any other fintech, what's common is that you're working within the banking system for the most part. And there was a real challenge in the banking industry around being able to serve this market in a safe way. Because most bankers saw the opportunity and wanted to participate. But the reality is that it's complex, it's high risk, it requires a lot of data and knowing what to do with the data to really help de-risk the industry and serve this market. For these businesses, something as basic as a bank account and a safe place to have your money be insured, just like any other business has in any other category. These are just fundamental needs that they had, and we were here to serve them. We were the first provider to be able to provide a nationwide program for all legal states, and one where the offering was ubiquitous. And we're really proud of that launch in 2019 when we finally did launch, and all the progress that we've made since then.
So in one of the articles I read, you described your company as an API first company. What does that mean, and what does that mean in the context of the features of your platform?
Yes. So when we think about where businesses are going, where systems are going, and the partners that you need to have to collaborate with in order to form solutions that are comprehensive for the industry. There are a number of ways that businesses want to work with one another, whether it be software tools, banks with their APIs and being able to interface with those. We've always thought of and architected our systems to be accessible in a number of different ways, whether it be someone, a bank wanting to log in and interface with us that way, or access to the data that would help them de-risk this industry from an API perspective. And that's true for all of our partnerships as well.
So Dama Financial was founded in 2017. Can you share some of the key milestones over the last couple of years?
I can. So we were founded in 2017, although in 2016 is when we really took a look at this industry and studied it deeply, got out in the field and really tried to understand what was really going on beyond what you could read. And then in 2017, we did found the company and made a very important decision to invest in our own platform, which was going to give us all the flexibility we needed to innovate, because innovation was going to be key in a category that was changing so fast. And in 2019, after we signed our first bank and our systems were ready to go to help de-risk this industry from a banking perspective, we launched. And since then, in 2020, we became the largest provider of banking for the entire industry, covering the entire nation where cannabis is legal. And then we process billions of transactions through our platform. And the last milestone was few months ago at over 6 billion in transactions that is helping the industry operate in a safer way.
And so can you give us a snapshot of where Dama Financial is today?
Sure. So we are, serving the entire U.S. We last year made a decision to enter the software space because we felt like an integrated solution was going to be one that the industry needed so that they could operate more seamlessly because of the fragmentation that exists today. We went and purchased GrowFlow. So we acquired GrowFlow earlier this year. The acquisition closed in February. And we're actively integrating those systems and so that we can deliver on the promise that there can be solutions that help companies operate their businesses, stay compliant, but also have financial services be something that's invisible. And it's just something that should just work as opposed to being something that a business operator has to worry about.
And so tell us about your clients. You've got retailers, manufacturers, distributors, cultivators, banks. Yeah, walk us through your client list.
Yeah, so we think about our clients and the different license types that they have. And by the way, licensing is very different from state to state, whether it be micro licenses, individual type licenses. It really just depends on the state. But we serve all types of clients, including non-licensed businesses as well, which we consider ancillary. So dispensaries, and some dispensaries have delivery, some of them don't. Product companies, distributors, cultivators, law firms, real estate companies, lighting companies, payroll companies, all types, because in many cases, even though you're not a licensed cannabis operator, it is incredibly difficult to get a bank account that allows you to process as much cash and have customers who are cannabis operators.
And so that takes me to the question, you have a product called Smart Safes. What are Smart Safes?
Yes, smart safes are, so we have a solution that where we have safes that are sitting in the operators' locations. They're completely integrated into their Dama Financial solution. So when you drop a stack of money in or a single bill, it's immediately reflected in your bank account, and you have provisional credit available to you. And then we manage the cash operations from there once it's in the safe.
And is that tied into the banks, or is that a standalone product irrespective of the banks?
It is a product that lives on our platform and that our banks participate in serving.
And so, walk us through how you partner with banks. You've got a cash management, you've got consumer payments, you've got credit and payroll. Walk us through, how you partner with the banks and provide services to them.
Mm-hmm. So our banks, our products are all of our financial services products, because as you know, we also have software products as well. But all of our financial services products are in partnership with our banks. So the reason why that's really important is because we do have other competitors out there who take a very different approach to how they manage money. And in many cases, as a money service business, you can take possession of cash and funds on behalf of your customers, but they're not sitting at a bank and not in your name. But we partner with our banks and make sure that the relationship that we have with our banks and with our customers is a tri-party agreement and a tri-party relationship, which really protects the businesses in case there's anything that really goes awry from as sometimes money does. So our banks are choose which products they want to participate in, but all of our financial services products have a bank sitting behind it.
So if I were a venture capitalist rather than a publisher, probably the first question I would ask you would be the challenge of legislation. And how do you deal with the incredibly cumbersome federal and state legislation, and how do you scale your business in the context of the sort of the legislative challenges that you face?
I think that there's a lot of inconsistencies in the legislative environment, state versus federal, and it's difficult for operators to navigate. We obviously spend a lot of time understanding and helping to really shape legislation, because part of the job here is helping to keep banks safe, because there are a lot of bad things that can happen when money that's not clearly identified in terms of who's behind it and where it's coming from can make things very unsafe. And we've seen that with some of the terrorist activities that have happened over the last decade and more. But the legislation, I think the intentions are generally very clear on both sides of the table. The problem has been, the lack of ability to kind of meet in the middle, if you will. But the other problem is that it's not a priority. It's certainly not a priority, cannabis as a whole, given everything else that's going on in this world right now. But helping our operators navigate the inconsistencies is part of what we consider part of our job, and helping them stay safe in doing that, stay compliant so that they can protect their business. Those are all things that we stay very, very close to. But I do think, unfortunately, we are going to be in this state for this environment for a lot longer than people anticipate, because of the lack of prioritization that cannabis has in DC.
Staying on the subject of SAFE, can you explain what the SAFE Banking Act is and its implications for your company?
Yeah, safe banking, I think the misnomer around banking and cannabis is that it is not illegal to bank cannabis. In fact, there are FinCEN guidelines that really help banks navigate banking cannabis. But it is a risk-based decision, and one that's difficult for banks that don't have resources, technology in particular, that help them navigate it safely. But safe banking is meant to be an explicit safe harbor for banking cannabis. But I'm just going to say it again: it's not illegal to bank cannabis today. But there are some banks that need legislation to be there in order to feel comfortable.
And so let's talk about your funding. Last year, you closed a $12 million Series B. Yeah, walk us through your funding, and are you teeing up for a Series C?
We did close a Series B in 2020, and those proceeds were to really support the broader rollout of Dama Financial across the country. And we've been able to do that very, very successfully. We since have acquired GrowFlow and are continuing our expansion. There are new products that will be coming out, and we're not quite ready to talk about those yet. But in a few months, those will be front and center for us to talk about in the media. And in terms of a Series C, yes, we do intend to raise money for a Series C, and the timing of that is still something that we're working through, but likely there will be one more round to get us to the scale that we're looking for and to profitability.
And so the growth plans going forward, is it going to be a combination of internal growth and acquisitions? Do you have any other acquisitions that you've got teed up or thinking about?
We are. We will have organic growth as well as M&A growth through acquisitions, and so we are actively driving both.
So, is there anything that you'd like to cover that personally or about the company any questions that I haven't asked that I should have asked?
I think that you're pretty thorough, Edwin. So and probably not too many anything else there. I do so appreciate that that the media is interested in moving this space along, and it is becoming such a bigger part of what's happening in society, whether it be helping from a medicinal perspective, but also just being an option, a safe option for people to buy cannabis in this country. So I really do appreciate that people are drawing attention to the need for just more support for the industry itself.
Well, Hank, I want to thank you for your time, and it's obviously it's been an exciting journey, and we look forward to hearing as the journey proceeds going forward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Edwin.